Hi and welcome to the Geek Legion of Doom. My name's Leo and I'm the creator of Geek Legion of Doom, I suppose. And welcome to our first podcast. So joining me is James.
Hello.
Who is our resident DC fan, among other things. So what the format of this show is basically going to be, we're going to go through some of the kind of the week's entertainment news that kind of relates to geek type subjects, and then we'll kind of talk about a bigger discussion towards the end. So let's get into the news. And the first thing really I want to talk about is the lockout that Marvel are doing to Fox in regards to the kind of the X-Men and Fantastic Four properties. And the news just broke basically that Marvel has basically now cancelled their Ultimate Fantastic Four comic to basically dissuade people from really kind of showing any interest in Fantastic Four. I guess in a bid maybe to lose the audience and hope to maybe get the rights back.
Well, it was free advertising, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's the thing. They're creating an audience for a product that's not going to be theirs in the cinema.
Yeah.
So from a business point of view, it makes sense. But from a fan point of view, have they actually said that was the definite reason they were doing it, or are they saying it's story reasons?
I mean, I don't think Marvel have come out and said that, but unfortunately, it does look like. I mean, there wouldn't be any other reason for it. Yeah. I don't think, to be honest. I mean, they still have a lot of the kind of the more obscure titles themselves running that aren't sort of controlled by other properties, but. It does sound a little bit calculating by Marvel, I have to say.
I'd say it's probably more of a Disney move than a Marvel move.
Yeah, that's true.
But I think with Fantastic Four, bearing in mind it was never one of the top selling Marvel comics, even when they did stick all the big name creators on it. I think it's one that they can afford to do, unlike X-Men or Wolverine, where obviously they'd be shooting themselves in the foot.
Yeah.
I don't think Fantastic Four is going to make a massive difference to their bottom line. And it's just playing silly buggers, isn't it?
Yeah. It doesn't. I don't really understand why Marvel would do it. I mean, they've got so many other characters to use anyway.
Yeah.
Do you know? And I don't know. Who knows? I guess we'll see how popular the Fantastic Four movie that is being developed by Fox will come out. Anyway, moving on. Apparently, they are remaking Scooby-Doo into another live-action movie. Do you think this is a good move?
The other ones weren't terrible. If you liked Scooby-Doo for what it was, I think if you're after a decent film, you wouldn't watch it. But if you're after a bit of reminiscing about the Scooby-Doo cartoon, it did portray that quite well. I really only liked it for Matthew Lillard as Shaggy.
Yeah,
that was the best part about it, I thought. I don't know what would be different about the remake. What can you do with that format that's going to be new from anything else you've ever done before?
Yeah, I guess the original live action movie with Freddie Prinze Jr. and Sarah Michelle Gellar was quite a good adaptation.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Of Scooby-Doo, I suppose.
If you liked the comic, it was a good adaptation. If you wanted to watch a good, fun film, it wasn't all that.
Yeah. They had a few sequels that really didn't do anything in regards to of money. Yeah. It seems like an odd choice, I think, because I think Scooby-Doo as a property, although it still has its fan base, it's kind of one of those ones that's just maybe a little bit too old now.
Yeah.
There was, on a kind of separate note, but they recently announced they were going to make a Nemo film. That's in 2000 Leagues Under the Sea. That kind of thing,
okay, yeah.
That's not Finding Nemo. And again, that's one of those properties where I just think it's just too old.
Yeah.
It's just too old, and the people who were interested, and it's kind of like Lone Ranger, I guess. That was a flop.
Yeah, that was an attempt at starting a new franchise, though, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, but it's based on a property that I just think is just too old now. And people our age, who at an age, I'm not going to just say how old we actually are, but I mean that's old for us.
Yeah. Well, the Hong Kong Phooey with Eddie Murphy has been floating around for years, and then that trailer came out, and then that's disappeared again, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Probably for the best.
Anyway, moving on. So, in other news, I'll kind of mention it. Don't really care though. Paddington Bear has lost Colin Firth.
I know. Did you see the trailer?
I didn't. I haven't actually seen the trailer.
Do you know what? It was surprisingly funny.
Was it?
He does look a little bit creepy. He's not that cute and cuddly. He looks a bit crazy as a bear. And it was quite slapstick, the trailer, but I was surprised how much I laughed at it for something that I thought would be ridiculous. I don't think it's going to make a massive difference. I'm sure there weren't that many Colin Firth fans that were going to be queuing up to watch it just for him. Plus, it's one of those things where you just get the lip sync right and then you can put anyone in. It does seem a strange choice for him, though, to leave having done so much work on it.
Yeah.
Was there any particular reason?
I don't know the reasons for it, to be honest. I mean, but
I don't care.
No, I saw the headline, but I thought it was worth mentioning. But again, people who are going to go and see Paddington Bear, young people, I don't think are going to be put off by the fact that Colin Firth isn't in it.
Yeah.
But
and even grown-ups with nostalgia, it's not as if that voice.
Yeah, you're going to see for the property, not for the voice. I don't think so. I don't think it's a particular big deal.
Watch the trailer. You might be surprised.
Speaking of trailers, did you see the new Guardians of the Galaxy one?
No, I'm avoiding them now.
No, right.
It's got to the point where I think I'm going to see too many spoilers. I'll always watch the first few to get an idea, and I thought they got better and better.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to release date, I'll stop watching them because I don't want to see too much of the plot given away.
Fair enough. Well, just to give you, they kind of changed tact on the trailers a little bit because the first two trailers that they released were kind of quirky. They had the sort of like the old style songs and stuff.
They were quite silly.
Whilst this one, they've kind of made it more of your traditional space opera type,
right?
Kind of the more of the sort of dramatic, operatic sort of music and stuff like that. You do have a little bit more dialogue from Rocket Raccoon.
Do you think it's getting better with the more trailers they've released?
I think it's needed to do that because
it did look like a space comedy.
Yeah, I think they have to sort of try and appeal to as many audiences as they can because obviously this is a risky move for Marvel, and I think they kind of need to try and sort of broaden the horizon for all the kind of outside of the core fan base.
But bearing in mind where we're going with the rest of the Phase 2 and 3, the space elements really need to work for all the plans with Thanos and what have you.
Moving on from that then and going on to sort of Doctor Strange, did you see the casting rumours?
No.
So apparently it's between Tom Hardy, Benedict Cumberbatch and Jared Leto. Okay.
I'm not sure Tom Hardy would be particularly right.
He's quite versatile though.
I know, he's a very good actor. I think he's, in terms of the physical build, I think he's not quite right. I think Benedict Cumberbatch would be better, but I don't know if he's overplayed the quirky,
that's true,
intelligent type, which he's done in pretty much everything.
But I guess that's bringing that sort of that fan base to it. So if you're a fan of, say, Sherlock, you might find him. This is a kind of a similar role for him. I think at the three names, that would be the one I pick. I'm not a huge Benedict Cumberbatch fan myself, to be quite honest.
I think Jared Leto would be good. He can do the quirky roles as well. And then you'd get quite a lot of name brand attachment with him as well as a mainstream Hollywood actor, I suppose. I think probably Tom Hardy's the bottom of the three out of my pick. Not that he's a bad actor or he wouldn't be good at it. I don't see that fit with that character.
Well, I mean, Doctor Strange isn't a physical presence.
No,
he does martial arts and stuff, but generally speaking, he's more his weakness is his physical attacks. So I don't think as Tom Hardy, as we know him, Bronson, Bane.
Yeah.
He's more known as the warrior. We've seen him. Yeah, we've seen him more of as kind of a physical. I mean, he has done. He's playing Elton John, so he has done obviously roles that are kind of against type, I suppose. But to be honest, I mean, who would you like to see? Do you have a particular vision?
I don't know. I liked the Johnny Depp rumor, but then maybe that's a bit obvious.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Maybe Benedict Cumberbatch would be the best one of the lot.
Yeah.
I don't think it needs to be a big name, but it depends on how much money they're going to throw at it. Are they going to do almost like a Blade style? We'll see if something different works.
The director's been confirmed, and I forget the guy's name, but it's the guy who directed Sinister.
Right. And
his resume is pretty much like horror based.
So it's the lower budget style.
Yeah. So I mean, what we've seen from Marvel so far is that they've had different sort of styles of films. Like Thor was fantasy. Captain America was a kind of 70s spy. Guardians of the Galaxy is going to be the kind of the space opera. So within Marvel itself, they've had these sort of different genres, and it looks like Doctor Strange will be the horror version.
Which should be good.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it'll be PG horror.
Yeah.
But then again, Blade didn't have to be necessarily, going back a while, didn't have to be that gruesome for it to be quite good and niche in a semi-horror market.
Who would his antagonist be?
Who for Doctor Strange?
Yeah.
I have no idea. Dormammu is the only one that I can think of.
I think it will be. I think they'll probably have him, or maybe Baron Mordo. I think.
Right.
Is the kind of I guess his other most famous. So I think Dormammu is probably the most famous because he's been in, for example, the Marvel fighting games. They're called. Oh, those sort of one-on-one fights and things like that. So, and he's kind of visually the most interesting.
Yeah.
I think. Sort of, although he does look a little bit like sort of Ghost Rider to the, to the people who aren't maybe that interested in kind of Marvel films, I guess. I think you can get confused a little bit for that.
I think this one needs to be their test bed for, we've done the big budget summer blockbuster. Can we do niche ones with our characters that will still make money and still be interesting? And if they get a good enough actor and a good enough script to go along with it, then it should work on a lower budget.
Yeah.
And then you won't necessarily have this massive expectation for every Marvel movie to hit $1 billion. And then you can get more interesting characters chucked in with future Avengers or other group movies. So it'll be interesting to see which way they go with it.
Yeah. There's been a new poster released for the new Jurassic Park movie. I don't know. It's basically sort of showing a shadow of the kind of some kind of dinosaur. It looks quite
dinosaurs in Jurassic Park.
It's very kind of moody, and apparently it's going to focus on of new types of dinosaur. I'm hoping they don't kind of go too much into the sort of the raptor route.
Right.
And apparently we're going to have some kind of aquatic monster in it as well.
Okay. Well, they did flying for the other one, didn't they? That was the big. Brilliant. That's a shadow. That's definitely a shadow.
It's definitely
Maybe
a shadow.
It's a Godzilla cameo.
Looks kind of like a crocodile to me, doesn't it? But so it looks. I mean, it's kind of a mood piece more than anything. It doesn't really show you too much, but I think it kind of sets up maybe, hopefully, a more serious tone.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with those carrying on because I think the premise still works and can still be done. I think if it becomes a case of let's just pick a new page of dinosaurs and chuck them in.
Apparently, there's apparently the story is this broke a little while ago. Is that there's a fully functioning park,
right?
And
so it works this time.
Yeah,
it hasn't all gone horribly wrong.
There are dinosaurs that have been somewhat domesticated, and these will be the good dinosaurs.
Oh dear.
Yeah, and apparently they've created from scratch their own dinosaur. For
they
some
genetically
reason.
Put one together.
Yeah,
right.
And I don't know why you would do it, to be honest.
Because you can.
Well, no. If you're making a park, here's my problem with that.
Right.
Yeah. Is that
other than the other realistic elements, we'll carry on.
We'll kind of park that for a minute. But here's my problem with them making this kind of made-up dinosaur: is that the fact you're going to this Jurassic Park, you've created things from the past, and that's what people are going to go. Let's just say it was real.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So following in the narrative of the story.
Yeah. Is that why make up a dinosaur when you've got all these
actual
other
dinosaurs.
ones? And then they've given it like special abilities like camouflage.
Right.
So why make it a deliberately pain in the arse thing that can go wrong?
Because otherwise, how are we going to make real world predators?
Well,
it's clearly going to head that way. I think we're going to have a Predator versus Jurassic Park. If you're making your own camouflage dinosaur types, that's the way to go.
Fair enough. Now, the big news that broke recently, of course, was from Nikki Fink, who broke the story about the DC slate of films that are coming up.
Yeah.
And apparently it's now been it's been confirmed by Kevin Smith.
Right.
Who has basically said he knew about this slate of films.
Yeah.
So it kind of, although Warner Brothers haven't out and out said it themselves,
is Comic-Con's going to be the rumoured release?
Yeah, I mean that'll be I would imagine the official, announcement of it. But what do you think about the news in general? I mean, it's kind of a big move on Warner Brothers' part.
Yeah. Well, if it is true, I think first of all it's a lot of films in not a lot of time. You're basically looking at 3 a year, where Marvel does 2, and it's not as if I'm Sandman, you could say, is
Would you know? Could you go through the films just in case?
So we've got
unaware.
May 2016, Batman v Superman, as opposed to Batman versus Superman, because who needs the extra letter? Shazam, July 2016. Christmas 2016 is the Sandman, which is potentially the Joseph Gordon-Levitt one that was rumoured before. May 2017, you've got Justice League proper. July 2017, Wonder Woman. Christmas 2017, Flash, Green Lantern team up. And that's been pretty much put as it's not going to be Ryan Reynolds again. And then May 2016, Man of Steel 2. I mean, the one that sticks out on there is there's no Batman for at least another, 4 years?
Yeah.
Sorry, May 2018, Man of Steel 2. So no Batman solo for at least 4 years. You would imagine he's obviously going to be in Justice League, though. But it seems strange that their big name character isn't going to be in there at all.
So let's kind of look at it in a bit more detail. So Batman v Superman, obviously the one that has obviously everyone's heard of, and it's currently being filmed. And we know that there's going to be a lot of people extra. We know that Gal Gadot is going to play Wonder Woman. We know that Cyborg's been cast.
Jason Momoa
is now Aquaman. I think this will be a post-credit scene
for all of them.
Maybe not Wonder Woman. But the others, I think it will be a post-credit scene.
Do you think it's just going to be cameo special?
Yeah. I don't even think Wonder Woman will have that much of a presence in the film. To be honest, I think maybe she'll have a little bit more than say Aquaman and the rest. But I think that will be like maybe not a post-credit scene, but it'll be a scene at the end of the film, basically, kind of Dawn of Justice. Basically, it is basically a Justice League prequel.
So, do you think it's going to be almost like in Arrow, where you just get mentions of other parts of the bigger universe and
I think
name drop?
You'll see them, obviously, because they cast.
Yeah.
So that I think you'll see these people. Maybe not everyone. I'm assuming they're going to want to save some surprises for the Justice League. Now, the interesting thing, the film that's being followed up by that is Shazam.
Mm-hmm.
So
definitely not Captain Marvel. Not allowed to call him Captain Marvel.
I'm wondering if he will be in Justice League in that case. It seems odd to make a Shazam film, even though he's not classically in there in the kind of the classic lineup.
New 52, he was part of Justice League, and he was wasn't he in the animated one they just released as well?
It's pointing towards that. I mean, it's not when you think of Justice League. I don't think you think Shazam necessarily. I actually really like the character personally. I really liked the animated
the version
of him.
Yeah,
and apparently The Rock is kind of rumored to play either Shazam or Black Adam.
I think he'd be a better Black Adam personally. I don't know
if he'd want to play a bad guy, The Rock.
He hasn't yet, but he'd be very good at it.
Yeah,
I think.
I think he'd be quite good at playing like a boy.
The boy in the man. Yeah,
in the man suit, basically.
The problem that I have with Shazam is, despite the whole Billy Batson as a superhero plot point, ultimately you've got another Superman. When you've got Shazam as the grown-up, you've got another Superman. So how do you then? What do you do with those two? How are they different? Because everyone else in the Justice League kind of complements each other. And then you've got the same problem that you always have with Superman, which is where you've got one person who's so massively overpowered, who doesn't need anybody else in the Justice League really, because he can just beat anybody up that he wants. He might not be the brightest spark, but he can always beat pretty much anybody with his powers anyway. So once you've got two of those, what do you then do with them? It's the same as the Hulk problem, where you have to do something with that character to almost get them out the way, because otherwise Superman would clearly beat everyone, like they did where they got rid of Hulk for half of Avengers, because he'd just smash everyone.
Yeah.
So I think unless you're really playing on the Billy Batson powers, the younger attitude in the superhero body, what do you then do with them if he does end up in Justice League?
The other thing that people haven't really talked about this, is that there's a comic by Mark Millar called Superior, which is very, very similar. It's about a guy or a young lad. I think he's got multiple sclerosis, and just through a series of events, he basically becomes a Shazam type character.
Yeah.
Basically, a fully grown adult, but with the mind of a child. And that movie's been greenlit as well. So it's essentially the same film as Shazam, So I don't know if that's going to have an effect, or I don't know who that's being made by. But apparently this was greenlit before Shazam.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they'll try and sneak that beforehand, maybe steal some of the thunder. Now I have to say, although I'm happy to see all these films, it's an odd release schedule, if you know what I mean. So Sandman, I think that's almost going to be a little bit separate from.
Yeah, I can't see that being part of the DC proper.
I mean, it might take place in the same universe, but I bet you it will have no real references. You could say it maybe takes place, but doesn't kind of really have any reference to the other thing.
Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to go down that route, you could link it into the other DC TV shows that have been greenlit, like Constantine, and that sort of thing. It would almost fit that niche. I think that's probably going to be completely separate and will be much more, like you say, niche and for the fans more than anything.
I think that's going to be a relatively low budget one, to be honest. And you mentioned the TV shows, and I mean, how many? It looks like we're going to be having multiple DC universes at any one time.
Yes.
So we've got the Arrow TV show, which will have the Flash in the same universe. So the Flash is a spin-off of Arrow. So that's that one.
But I'm guessing that Flash won't be the Flash that's coming out.
I shouldn't imagine so. So we've got a different movie verse. So that's two. We've got the Constantine show, and we've got the Gotham TV show.
Yes.
So that's four DC universes that exist at any one time.
It's difficult. I mean, Arrow's proven that it can work, but I think the reason that Arrow worked so well was because they had comic book writers actually writing and producing the TV show. And I think that made a big difference, because from the geek point of view, there were lots and lots of little Easter eggs in there that you could get excited about. But then from a dramatic point of view, it was actually quite a good TV show as well. I had great worries about Gotham, which started out as a brilliant idea, and then the more I saw about it, the less I liked it, even right down to the trailer, which I thought was awful. But the pilot has got very good reviews.
Yeah.
So I'm willing to give that one a chance based on the fact that Arrow was so good. I think Constantine could work quite well.
So that's got a mix of section, but I actually thought that looked quite good.
The Constantine one.
I got to say. Yeah.
I think that could fill the gap of, I'm going to forget the name of it now, the two brothers, Supernatural.
Yeah.
I think that could be on those sorts of lines where it could cross genres as well, and get more than just the geek crowd. In terms of DC managing their overall slate, I mean, I guess the advantage they've got is that they're making a lot of the TV shows as well, aren't they?
Well, I think the TV shows are different networks, because Arrow is CW, isn't it? And I think Gotham, is Fox.
Right. Okay. So
and
they haven't got that.
And I think Constantine is another network.
Right.
I'm pretty sure. So this is why I'm saying it's different universes. Yeah. I mean, Marvel have kind of got their own thing going on. Obviously, you've got Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and that's connected to the Marvel universe, and they're saying that it's confirmed that Daredevil and Luke Cage that will also
Defenders.
Even though they're different networks.
Right. Okay. So they've managed to retain control there.
Yeah, but I don't think DC are doing that.
Right.
So I mean, who knows? I mean, they might turn around and have a change of mind.
That comes across as just a desperate money grab then, really, doesn't it? Yeah. Where we're just going to farm out all our products and hope that some of them stick. But again, going back to the movies, it looks like an awful lot in not a lot of time.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think of the gap between...
And they must have been planning this for a while. I mean, we know that they've been looking at Sandman for a little while. We knew Justice League was coming. I mean, I wasn't expecting to see a Wonder Woman solo movie, especially because Gal Gadot is really an unknown. I mean, they must be hoping she's going to be like the shit in Batman and Superman, because that's the film that immediately follows Justice League.
Yes, so they're going to have her as, I think, more than maybe a bit part in Batman v Superman.
Do you think Batman is going to show up in any more of these films?
Well,
apart from Justice League,
from a plot point of view, there's no reason for him to be in Shazam. There's definitely no reason for Sandman. Justice League, he could appear in Wonder Woman. He could appear in Flash, Green Lantern, but it's unlikely. And then Man of Steel 2 is the only other opportunity he's got.
But then again, that becomes Batman and Superman too, doesn't it? Really?
Yes.
So it's difficult. I mean, who knows what DC are planning?
Yeah, I mean, looking at it, I really can't see where else he would fit in. And again, it seems strange that they'd get their big name star. I know from a comic point of view, you could argue Superman's bigger, but from a popular culture point of view, you don't get much bigger than Batman for DC. It seems strange that they're pushing Flash, Green Lantern and Wonder Woman and Shazam, but nowhere on there's a mention of Batman. Yeah. Unless they think maybe there needs to be a gap between the Chris Nolan version and then Ben Affleck stepping in.
Anyway, moving on, but staying with DC, there's a new Batman animated cartoon series coming out called Batman Unlimited.
Right, this is new to me.
Yes, basically, Beware the Batman. I think
was awful.
That's kind of like being, well, it has been pretty much just shelved.
I tried so hard to like it, I really did, and then I was forcing myself to watch it, and then with the new re-release of the last few episodes, I just haven't bothered. I'm sorry to say, it's the first time that I've actually given up on a Batman cartoon.
Yeah, I mean, nothing's really been, but this new one, Batman, and they've shown the logo at the Licensing Expo 2014.
Right.
But that's it. But apart from that...
Is there no release date?
No, apart from that's literally it. I mean, Batman Unlimited, maybe it's going to go with a kind of the kind of expanded universe of Batman. We have the kind of the other sort of Batman characters.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, they tried that with Brave and the Bold. I know that was skewed more for children, but that seemed to work.
I wonder if... I mean, a direction they could go, they could almost make it like fit the theme of the Batman v Superman. I mean, it could be really just kind of, as the animated series tried to sort of ape the Tim Burton Batman films. Yeah. I wonder if they'll try and do this, because it could be,
Thinking on what you just said, it was Justice League that then went to Justice League Unlimited, and that had the extended roster. So the original Justice League cartoon, you had the big six plus a few others, and then when it went to Justice League Unlimited, you had the full DC universe. Yeah. So that would tie in with, we can add anybody in that we want if we have Batman Unlimited, and then you get your Green Arrow cameos and all that sort of thing in there as well. So that could, if that's the way they go, that could definitely work. Yeah. Because Justice League Unlimited was excellent.
So on staying with Batman, but going on to video games, then obviously we've heard that the Arkham Knight has changed its release date.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
I would rather it came out late and good than early and rushed.
Yes.
Bearing in mind how poor the previous one was. I know it wasn't the same developers, but even so, it was just going through the motions. I know when I finished the second one, Arkham City.
Yeah.
Was it Arkham City? It was Arkham Asylum.
Arkham Origins.
Arkham Origins was the third one. Arkham City was excellent. And then when I finished it, I thought I could play this game continually. I wish there was more of it. And then when Origins came out and it was essentially exactly the same, just an earlier time plot on the narrative, it just bored me. And I finished it for the sake of actually just going through it. And I didn't particularly enjoy it.
Yeah.
But now we're back to the original developers for Arkham Knight, and it does look very, very good again.
I have to say that the Arkham Knight character himself does look pretty good, but I think it will be someone that we know. I know it's the character's new, but I got a feeling the actual who's behind it.
Yeah.
All right.
Do you think it's going to be an existing baddie creating it, or somebody in a suit?
I don't know who it will be, but I think it'll be someone that. No, you don't reckon?
I don't know. I mean, you could go with Azrael again. He likes to wear a big bat suit.
Okay, moving on from DC now. Apparently, there's now going to be a Yu-Gi-Oh film in development, which is going to apparently coincide with its 15-year anniversary.
Jesus.
Obviously, not skewed for the older audience. Is it too late?
If they're making it, then they clearly think there's an audience. They're still cranking out Pokemon films.
Yeah.
And Dragon Ball films.
I'm not sure if it's going to be an animated film or a live action film.
Oh God, that'll be live action.
I got a feeling it might be a live action film.
Oh, that's a lot of hair product.
Who knows? But
how would you do live action with cards?
Well, I mean, who knows? I mean, basically, Pokemon's is cards, isn't it?
Yeah, but you can animate the small ball and the large animal coming out of it, and that's fine. But with the cards, I don't know how that would have to. I mean, it would be anyway, but that would have to be proper children aimed for, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
The realism just wouldn't work on any level.
So a little while ago, we heard that there was going to be a Banana Man movie. Did you hear that?
No.
Yeah. They are developing a live-action Banana Man movie.
Right.
Obviously based on a British comic, which was really a parody of the kind of the super, in particular Batman, really, I would say.
Yeah.
I actually quite liked Banana Man.
Yeah, well, we were of an age where we were meant to like it.
Yeah, but it was a simpler time, and basically it's tells a tale of Eric, who eats a banana and turns into Banana Man, which again actually is, thinking about it, is a Shazam type film, because he's a boy who transforms into an adult superhero. Although this one's clearly going to be played for
laughs,
a fun comedy rather than anything else.
Live action or CG?
No, it's live action.
Wow, that's risky.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's not going to be a high budget one. But staying with kind of classic British cartoons, they're also going to be rebooting Danger Mouse as well.
See, that would work. I think
that one I think is going to obviously just be a TV series or something.
Yeah.
But
I think I think Danger Mouse could work because it was good enough and silly enough to be rebooted. I think there was enough variety in the story for it to still work.
Yeah, I do think that's something that could be adapted, to be honest, and would be okay for a modern audience. I mean, there's something that just the concept is just really can be remade and reused again.
Yeah.
So basically, apparently, the Godzilla sequel is going to be greenlit, depending on the final box office outcome in China.
Right. Okay.
That is the what it comes down to, basically.
And is there any early numbers on that one yet?
I haven't seen it, to be honest. So
do you watch Godzilla though, didn't you?
I did. I thought it was okay.
Because
I think I gave it a 6.5. It's good. It was. I liked the character of Godzilla and the design and the effects.
Even though I thought it was a bit fat, a lot of people complained about it was a chunky Godzilla.
Apparently the Japanese said that, but I can't really.
I
can't really take the piss. Can I
prefer the slimline Godzilla?
But the way how I really talked about the Godzilla film was the adventures of the character played by Aaron Johnson in the land of Godzilla.
Yeah.
So it was almost just this you follow this human character
with Godzilla
in the background, and that was a mistake, I think. And Bryan Cranston, they were going to do that. They should have had Bryan Cranston do it, not Aaron Johnson.
Do you not think it was? Do you think the character wasn't interesting enough, the actor wasn't good enough, or the plot itself just didn't work from that angle?
Well, Aaron Johnson, I don't think was particularly good in that film.
Plays well for Quicksilver.
Yeah, and I just think it should have been written a bit differently to that.
Right.
I think
so it was more the overall plot.
Yeah.
So what would be the Godzilla 2 premise then? Non-spoilers. Because I'm guessing he doesn't die at the end now.
What, Godzilla? Have you not seen it?
No, I died. On the basis of your review.
Well, I mean, I think they'll probably do a Destroy All Monsters type film, if you've seen that.
Yeah.
And because that's what people wanted.
Just Godzilla breaking everything and
but you say that, I mean, basically it has to go that kind of route, doesn't it? I mean, how different can a Godzilla film be? It's going to be Godzilla punching another monster, or it's going to be Godzilla attacking a town. It's going to have to be one of those two things. So the only thing I can think of is maybe he's having like the Destroy All Monsters. It's probably one of the most, if apart from the actual original film, it's probably the most beloved at the Godzilla films, I would say. So certainly from a Western audience, at least.
Are you going to have Godzilla then actually siding with the humans to beat up the other monsters?
Well, they kind of, at the end of the film, if you haven't seen the film, this is going to be a mild spoiler. At the end of the movie and this one, he's kind of positioned to be a kind of anti-hero,
right? Where
people are sort of cheering him because he's sort of destroyed
bad things.
The other guys, basically the monsters and stuff, who are going to spawn lots of
So it's heading that way anyway.
Yeah. So, but like I said, I mean, I don't know. Pacific Rim was that film, wasn't it?
Yes.
That's
where I was going to go next,
big,
actually.
big monsters punching each other, and I don't know how much story you can really wring out from it. To be honest, where it's just gonna.
Do you think we're only doing more Godzilla from a nostalgia point of view?
Well, it's gonna be from a monetary point of view.
Oh yeah, but in terms
what
of,
they'll do it.
Are we trying to like it because of what it was before to us, as opposed to it actually being a worthwhile film to go and see? Where, as you say, there's limited scope for big monster smashes city, big monster beats up other monsters.
Well, I'm a genre fan. I like monster films or kaiju films, however you want to call it. And yeah, so I kind of went into it expecting to like it, and I didn't hate it. I was kind of I know there's a lot of
glowing review of I didn't hate it.
There was a lot of people who really don't like it. There's a lot of people who love it. To be honest, I was kind of in the middle about it.
Would you pay to go and see the sequel?
Yeah, I think so.
Orange Wednesdays, though.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so moving on from Godzilla, Resident Evil. They have announced
the last one,
the final chapter of certainly maybe the Mila Jovovich ones,
because she's busy with all those other films.
Well, I mean, apparently there was going to be an Expendables 3, but she turned it down.
I'm sure she can be in Expendables 4.
Yeah. Although
the Expendables.
Although they're saying that they won't be, this is the last one, apparently. But yeah, so there's going to be one more Resident Evil film. I think there's one due this year or next year. But I think this next one will be the last one. But the Resident Evil films make money.
Yes. Well, then they're not that high budget for what they have. Obviously, the cast isn't massively expensive, and then you've got some effects, and then when you chuck in the 3D crowbar in, then you add some more money in your ticket sales, don't you? I enjoyed them. It's kind of like Underworld. I enjoyed them, but I stopped trying to follow the plot of who was coming from where, because you had the people coming from the earlier ones and then the later ones, and then you've got the people coming in from the various games that if you really follow the narrative of the games, that you'd understand, but actually some of them are just there because you want to name check someone from the games. Do you know where it's going to go with the plot?
No.
Right.
Answer that one.
I mean, again, how many times can you do zombies, Umbrella Corporation? It was cool to start with.
Yeah. I mean, they take elements of the games, but it's kind of its own thing now.
Yeah.
To be honest.
That's what I mean. And then.
But I quite like that. I mean, it's. You a lot of people will say, "Oh, why don't you make a straight adaptation?" But I prefer it when it kind of.
Well, yeah. If you've played the game, then there's no point watching the film because you know exactly what happens, and that's always going to be something of a disappointment. It'll probably be good. I'll probably watch it, but I doubt I'm going to get that excited about it, like the last two.
Fair enough. Okay, so this last part of this podcast, so we're going to talk Star Wars. Right. So this is a bit of news, but we're going to go a little bit more into it. So there's rumours about the plot of the new Star Wars movie. So if you don't like spoilers, then, this isn't going to be for you.
Okay, so go for a quick recap.
But apparently, Episode 7 basically will focus on, or the villains will be Jedi hunters. Okay.
Right.
Now there's a new cartoon show, Star Wars Rebels, which actually features a character who is a Jedi hunter.
Okay.
And it sounds like basically that's the kind of direction the bad guys are going to be in. Basically, these villains are dressed in black. Some are helmeted, and they hunt the Jedi for the Empire.
So the Empire's still active.
Apparently so. Now, the character in the Star Wars Rebels is called the Inquisitor, and basically he is a Jedi hunter, basically. Now, these hunters use lightsabers, and basically, apparently, they've been kind of fighting these Jedi hunters for a while, and apparently, Lupita Nyong'o is going to be one of these bad guys.
Okay.
And so, as is Adam Driver, and they're going to be these Jedi hunters, basically, and they're going to wear yellow contact lenses. So it's kind of They just sound like Sith to me. Let's be honest.
Yeah, it wasn't Grievous a guy that hunted Jedi as well?
Yeah.
That's how he got all his lightsabers.
Yeah, I mean, the article actually says these guys are like, General Grievous, Magma Guards from Revenge of the Sith.
So you never actually saw him in action, as it were. But that was the premise, was that he was the guy that he was the Jedi killer.
Essentially, so I mean, this is not confirmed. I'll point out. So this is the rumor, but the kind of the where would you like to see the Star Wars? Unless it's a bit of an open-ended question.
I like the idea of the original cast coming back, because I think from a fanboy point of view, you had to at least get some of them in. I don't know if it was necessary to get all of them back. We'll see if they're well integrated. I mean, with the amount of press that they've had, it's obvious that they're not just going to be cameos.
Maybe Harrison Ford will be now, though.
Yes, from the waist up.
So, in case you didn't know, Harrison Ford's injured his ankle and will be out of shooting for 8 weeks.
I think with something like with the amount of money that Disney are clearly throwing at it, I think they're going to schedule around that.
Yeah.
And they can jig things about enough to then, I'm sure they'll have to do reshoots at some point, and then they'll get him back. But yeah, from the ankle up, from the waist up, I don't think will be a massive problem. Get George Lucas back in to put some CG feet on him. I thought it was going to go down the route of the rumoured Ghostbusters, where you were going to have the old guys passing on the torch to the youngsters, which I guess works.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't have the original cast stringing it out forever, because they're not going to be around forever. And the world, the Star Wars universe has proven to be quite amount of longevity, and you can see other aspects of it and still make it interesting, with all the spin-offs that you've had. So I think it could work. I think you don't want to focus too much on reliving the past.
I think there's going to be, I mean, they're obviously trying to kind of win back favour with the kind of the fans by going, using these a lot more practical effects and what they've said, having the kind of the old cast back. And I think you can have a little bit more fan service in a sequel than a prequel, to be honest, because otherwise you're just, like with the George Lucas's, prequel trilogy, you had these sort of things like crowbarred in there.
Yes.
So look at me, you'll remember this kind of thing from the original trilogy.
It was clearly trying to be too clever. I think are we going to have Luke basically reenact the Ben Kenobi, I've been living in a cave and I've got
I don't think so. I mean, I think you'll probably find that there'll be a lot more sort of structure in what's going on, because before, obviously, when we had when we see the good guys, shall we say, they're kind of in hiding, but now, after Return of the Jedi, the good guys have won. So ultimately, I think what we'll probably start with is they're the kind of the government. Yeah. They're the kind of the in power.
So the Empire are now the nasty rebellion.
Yeah.
From that point of view.
Yeah. So it's kind of maybe flipped it around, and that in a way is kind of an interesting guide.
Yeah, I quite like that idea. I mean, I know it's almost going back to how it started. If you go back to like episode 2, where the Emperor's secretly making all the clones and creating his own army and that sort of thing, but it was too, as you say, it was too shiny and too nice and too building up. I'd like to see a more grittier Empire, underworld style sort of thing, where if the Jedi hunters are going out and doing bad things to the good guys.
So assuming that's true, that means there must be lots of Jedi at this point.
Yes.
So that we kind of, that's the kind of the lead you can take from that we'll see a lot of Jedi. Now, Luke, if we look again, is going to be the most elder Jedi in that case.
Yes.
Because at the end of Empire...
I don't know, maybe Leia, was she born first?
Well, they're twins, aren't they? But, I mean, even if Leia was a Jedi now, she hasn't trained for as long.
Yeah, so he's the elder statesman of the Jedi.
Yeah. So he's basically going to be I guess maybe the kind of the Yoda character, I would imagine.
That's what I mean. Is he cast out somewhere in isolation, and then they call him back to help?
No, I mean, I don't think so, because I mean, Yoda was only cast out because basically the Jedi sort of had fallen, haven't they? So when we go into this, I think we'll see the Jedi almost like we saw them in kind of, maybe not exactly like they were in not the episode 1. They're going to be, somewhat in power and won't be sort of hiding in the shadows.
They're back to being the soldiers of the state almost. Do you think there will be the temptation of Luke to turn to the dark side again?
I hope not.
Really?
To be honest, because they've kind of done that.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? I have to say, as much as I do like the kind of the Force, I actually prefer, in a way, the things that happen outside of that. Part of the reason why I like Star Wars so much is because there's so much going on in the peripheral. You've got, we've literally just watched the original Star Wars just before we did this podcast, and there's so much else going on. In that universe.
That's why it works, because it feels like an actual place. It feels like a living, breathing universe, as opposed to just in space somewhere. You can believe it exists.
I mean, just the small little things, like the detail they put in, like when the they're looking at if we look at the original Star Wars, they're saying, it can't be Sand people because they walk in this way and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And when we have the attack on the Death Star, there's like variety. There's not just one type of spaceship.
Yeah.
They've got the older Y-wings along with the kind of the slightly sort of, there's so much there, so much context.
It works.
And that's kind of, obviously Han Solo character is a whole different thing. Not a Jedi at all.
Yeah.
And, arguably the most popular character, I would say.
So do you think they're going to go down the, what was it? Was it Rise of the Empire? What was the cartoon?
No, I totally think they're going to do the...
Where they're going to have, him and Leia are going to have kids?
I think so. I mean, that it'd have to be. Now, if we are... However, here's the thing, okay?
Yep.
So the Jedi Order, right? Let's see, I'm going to get my geek on now.
Okay.
They're not allowed to have relationships, are they?
Right.
So how the hell are we going to have kids? Because apparently the Jedi Order, you've got here's one thing I disagree with in regards to the kind of the whole Jedi thing.
No sex for Jedi. That's what you disagree with.
It is. Well, they're saying the Jedi should be essentially emotionless.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
how is that good? How is that a positive thing?
Well, I guess the benefit of positive emotions doesn't outweigh the deficit of negative emotions.
Yeah.
The bad that can happen when you are having bad emotions can be so much more destructive than the nice happy feelings you get for loving everyone.
Yeah.
And if you rule it out, then it could never ever go wrong. And yes, you might never ever be happy, but you can never ever ever cause that much harm unless you're tempted to the dark side, which seems to be far too easy to do. But then, I mean, you could say that to be a Jedi, you don't have to be born from a Jedi. You could just have Han and Leia have kids that aren't necessarily Jedi.
There has to be other people who just happen to have the
high midi-chlorian count.
Yeah. Otherwise, you wouldn't.
He rolled his eyes when I said that.
You wouldn't have had all of these random Jedi appear in the other films, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So was Ben Kenobi or Obi-Wan Kenobi's parents Jedi? You don't know, but
yeah,
probably not. I mean, it's a bit like it's almost like the X-Men. They're just kind of this mutation that just happens, isn't it?
You just happen to be born proficient in the Force.
Yeah. And but going back to what I was saying, just like if we look at the kind of the rules set out by, and they might just choose to ignore it, because ultimately if Luke, if it's like this, that is basically King Jedi, he can kind of just do whatever he wants basically. But I'm pretty sure in the prequel trilogy, basically they kind of established that you shouldn't have these kind of personal relationships, and it's a bit like being a monk, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so.
And that is part of the reason why Anakin had his full.
Because he let his emotions get to him.
Exactly.
On both levels. So he fell in love and then had rage when the love was taken away.
So in theory, how is Luke going to have kids? Unless he just had a one-night stand and didn't care. That's the only way. He doesn't care. He puts it about. It's like, whatever. I don't care. I don't have emotions.
I'm king of the Jedi. I'll do whatever
and that
I
is
want.
the way he rolls. There you go. See, scuppered that plan, haven't I? So.
I can quite honestly guarantee. I would put cash on it that Luke will not have a one-night stand for the good of the Jedi Order.
I think it's conceivable that Leia may have had kids, because you could arguably say she may have, got pregnant and been with Han before, and she has the Force, but she may not be a Jedi.
Yeah.
So you can maybe get away with like her and Han having kids.
I'd be quite disappointed if they make her a Jedi, to be honest with you. I think that would be too much of a change for the character. And although she might have the innate abilities,
that would be a better way. I mean, she can be she can produce Jedi.
Yeah,
as in she can have kids who are Force proficient, but not necessarily be a trained Jedi.
Yeah,
I mean, she might have some,
I think
some use of a.
She works better as the regal ambassador, queen sort of thing, than.
But I don't think Luke will have kids. That's the reason why. Right. If they stick to the mythology,
it wouldn't bother me.
Yeah.
I'm not fussed about seeing little Skywalkers running around. Is Leia going to change her name? Is she going to stay Organa, or is she going to go back to being Skywalker?
I think she'll be Solo.
Oh yeah, good shout.
Yeah, I think she'll be Solo. Now, staying on this sort of Star Wars news, and this is going to be really, really geeky panickety now. All right. So basically,
the rest of it wasn't.
Well, check this out. We've just watched the Star Wars film, and what they're saying now. Have you heard the term G canon?
No.
So what they're saying is only things that have happened in the actual Star Wars films, and I think they actually said the Clone Wars as well. The Clone Wars,
the cartoon. Yeah. Yes. No, I know what you mean now. Yeah.
That is the only things that can be considered canon. However, all right now, if you watch this special edition of the Star Wars Episode 4, I forget what the ship is called, but you have that ship piloted by Dash Rendar.
Yes.
I forget the Outrider or something. I think
when you flew over Mos Eisley.
So, is that saying that is canon still? Because that is based on the Shadows of the Empire book. So that ship was in the film. So that exists within G canon.
I think you could probably get away with completely ignoring the fact, never mentioning it again. It's not like there was a big label on the ship as it flew over in the special edition. I think there would be you and a very limited number of people who would actually care.
I like Shadows of the Empire, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, I'm not saying it's bad. I mean, Clone Wars was very good, and I'm glad they've included that. But I don't think that's going to be a major sticking plot point.
No, exactly. No, it was like I said, that was just a real thing that when I just happened to watch, I thought, well, that's what they're saying now is that only what's in the film is going to be canon, but that was in the film, so does that mean that's canon?
If you can get away with the glaring plot holes and inconsistencies that we had with X-Men: Days of Future Past, I think you can get away with one spaceship flying over Mos Eisley,
fair enough,
and it not causing massive problems.
Fair enough. So, what about the spin-off films? So we know that they've had Gareth Edwards, speaking of Godzilla, who directed Godzilla. He's going to direct the first spin-off film, which is rumoured to be Boba Fett.
Yes, there was the rumoured Yoda one as well. And wasn't there going to be a Han Solo?
Well, apparently there was a leak in Hasbro that sort of gave the idea of what the spin-off films would be. And apparently it's going to be Boba Fett, Han Solo, and then Red 5.
Right. So
which I'm guessing is going to be an X-Wing type movie. That could change, but this is what it's going to be said. And the rumour is that, and I think this is a good idea, is that some unknown person will kill Boba Fett as he's known from the, as we see episode 2.
Yeah.
So the son of Jango Fett who takes the armour.
Right.
So who essentially is a stormtrooper.
Yes.
Basically.
Well, all the stormtroopers.
Yeah. But he is kind of like, there's no different from a stormtrooper.
Yeah.
Other than the fact he's kind of not aged as quickly.
Yeah.
And has a cooler outfit.
Yeah. And some unknown person is going to take, kill him, take the armour, and we still won't know who he is. I think that's a better idea.
I think that's a much better idea. I think.
Here's the problem.
Okay.
It's a Disney film.
We were doing so well.
It's a Disney film. Are they going to want to have this kind of brutal violence in a Disney film?
Does it need to be brutal violence? I know if you're doing a bounty hunter film, there's going to be some. You'd like to think he kills a few people, otherwise he's the worst bounty hunter in the world. But I think you could get away with it as a PG-12 sort of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends. Are they going to, bearing in mind he was exceptionally popular from the original trilogy, and then they tried to milk it with the prequels and it clearly went horribly wrong. Are they going to go back to the mysterious stranger almost kind of make him the anti-hero, like we said before.
I hope so. I mean, that's if they
that's the route I would go down.
If they're going to make a Boba Fett film, I mean, to me, make it slightly lower budget. Maybe not make it, an adult film exactly, but have it a little bit harder.
Go back to having him like lurking in the underworld of the universe, and it doesn't need to be as.
But where would it be set? I mean, would it be set? I mean, it would have to be if that's the route they're going. It would have to be set.
You mean
between
where or when?
It's in when in the timeline, because because obviously Boba Fett dies in Return of the Jedi.
Spoilers.
So that to have this film, that like we sang, it's going to have to be a prequel. It's going to
be between 3 and.
Well, it will have to be between. Yeah, it will have to be between 2, and at some point between, because we see him in the special. We see him in
New Hope
in the special edition version. That's the versions that are canon. As much as we may not like it.
Yeah.
So basically, it has to kind of take place between episodes 2 and 4.
Okay, but what's the timeline between that? That's with Luke growing up.
It's about 20 years. 20 years. Yeah,
so I mean, they did it with Clone Wars, didn't they? Where that was the timescale they were looking at around then, and they got enough things to go on with that. I mean, if they're saying Clone Wars is canon, you could then take plot points that were in the Clone Wars cartoon and then put Boba Fett around that, as it were, and then keep the geeks happy with that element.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look, we're coming up to an hour now, so it's probably time we drew this to a close. I hope you've enjoyed our podcast. Leave us any comments and your thoughts on anything that we've discussed, either on Star Wars or any of the news topics. And we'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.
Bye.